Mr. Secretary, we recently published a study that shows that the combination of storage and solar will be profitable in Hawaii in the next 2 years, will be profitable for consumers in California and New York in the next 5 to 10 years. And utilities, as a result, are in a panic, because what that means is that individual consumers could potentially decide to defect from the grid. So one of the big stumbling blocks that we see is to help utilities figure out what their next business model is and help regulators create the regulatory frameworks that will enable those businesses to continue to have a viable business model. Now, I realize that that is state regulation, but still, I think there is a role for the DOE to play to help in some form the dialogue that needs to take place to create that viable future for our utilities. What do you think about that?
Well, certainly, again, you're correct, and a very sophisticated question, another one. First of all, the first point you made in invoking, say, Hawaii, et cetera, is that when we have this discussion about costs of, say, of solar and payback periods, we have to remember it's not just about discussing the solar technology and costs, it's about what are you comparing it to. And for example, in an island environment, it's always much, much higher costs. Hawaii has, I don't know, 25 cents per kilowatt hour or something like that, retail cost today, and solar can beat that. So then you do come to the integration issues which you mentioned. So that's one point. You really have to look at the baseline costs, which, by the way, is why also it's amusing. A few years ago when I was at MIT, we pointed out that the payback period for a solar installation in Connecticut was shorter than one in Arizona. And it was because of what you were comparing to for the retail price. It's kind of amusing. Perhaps amusing, at least. Secondly, the issue of, I'm going to quibble with your phrasing. You said we have to look at the utilities' future business model. What we have to look at is not necessarily the future of the utility, but the utility of the future, which may be a very different thing. Now, we do have a convening role in that, which we are exercising. What I said earlier, just to reinforce what you said, I mentioned it in my opening remarks, that we are seeing, of course, one example of this challenge to the current business model is that of distributed generation, net metering, and the utility. I mean, frankly, both sides have real arguments. If we go to a reality where there is more and more distributed generation or off-grid generation, and which we should think of not only as individual consumers, but major municipalities, major industries, getting power inside their fence. Well, that changes the whole paradigm as to how fixed costs like installing transmission and distribution lines is to be recovered. That's a discussion that has not been going on, frankly, at a sufficiently sophisticated level. So we are hoping to help that along.